I honestly don't know where to start today with all the news. So, here's a kitten. This kitten wants you to subscribe to the vlog. Subscribe to this vlog. Make this kitten happy. Okay, hey, what's up, everybody? Good morning and welcome to a brand new world. Sidebar, for anybody out there who's still complaining that 5th edition or D&D 1 does not have enough options, well, this is going to disprove your theory. So, I guess the only tabletop role-playing game news going on in the world today is Wizards of the Coast, Spelljammer, and all the announcements that came out yesterday. We could go over them one by one. We could cover them all. We're definitely going to go over this at some point. So I'm not sure how to handle this. There's just so much that came out of today. And there's so many different ways to approach this. So let's just begin at the beginning. And try and go over this one by one. If you have D&D Beyond, this is available on D&D Beyond for free. I've read through it once. I'm reading through it again. If this wasn't Dungeons & Dragons, and it was another game I was looking at, and I had no idea, I'd be like, okay, I kind of like some of this. Other stuff seems dumb. There's definitely some things that feel utterly ridiculous. Monsters cannot critical hit players anymore, but players can critical hit monsters. So unless monsters are getting some new special ability to replace doing double damage on natural 20s, okay. I mean, at this point, if this is the direction they're going, why even have encounters anymore? As I've said before, why bother? I mean, I'm not even going to run. I'll just text people how much experience points they get and save all the time and effort. Just, assume I ran a game. Assume you won. You all level. I'll talk to you in a week. So also there's the news about how Dungeons & Dragons is going to be a service that you have to pay to use because everything's going digital. There's also, at least for now, still going to be physical copies, but going forward, maybe not. Our Wizards of the Coast, I guess, is expecting people to pay a monthly fee to play D&D, like a monthly fee to sign up for Netflix. And in return for that monthly fee, you're going to get products and updates and errata and at least 5 things in 2023, not counting the Magic the Gathering stuff. But I don't know. It seems stupid. Why should I continue to pay for a service that's free? Why should I buy the books if you're going to make this free online? Oh, it won't have the art? I don't fucking care about art. For the most part, I think art in role-playing products at this point in time is just an excuse to waste space and increase the price. So, going forward, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is too hard. I have no idea yet whether these changes are going to make D&D math harder or easier. The main complaints, of course, being that people don't get the math, D20 plus, and the breakdown of 5E action economy, action, reaction, movement action, standard action, bonus action, bonuses from spells and other stuff like that. When spells go off, how spells last, concentration. There's a lot of complaints about D&D math is too hard still. I even heard it this week. So does this make the D&D math easier or harder? As for the complaint, 5th edition doesn't have enough options, I think this is going to disprove that. Plenty of options. Maybe still not enough options. Well, I don't know. Remember, this is the playtest copy. Also, let us just also remember that 1, Wizards of the Coast lies. 2, anything we see now in this will not in any way, shape, or form resemble what we see when the final product goes to print in 2024. So we can ignore this, I still have the D&D playtest from D&D Next. It is completely different than the final product that was D&D 5th edition. They're 2 separate games. D&D Next, the D&D starter set 5th edition SRD stuff way better than 5e. It's the game they should have made. So, based upon that, based upon the continuing evolution of the direction they think they want the hobby to go, I'm just going to toss them out there that this is utterly useless, and whatever we see at the end is not going to resemble this in any way, shape, or form. They're going to be posting questionnaires in September, but have they listened to any of the previous surveys that they've put up over the past 2 years regarding design? No, they haven't. So why would they now? All right, so that's what's going on. Okay, so let's go first. Spelljammer. I have yet to hear anything positive about Spelljammer. It's out, right? We already went through the first round of reviews, which was basically breaking down to, I've read this because Wizards of the Coast gave me a copy early and are technically paying me to read this. I don't really get this. It's completely different, but I have to say positive things about it. So it's got more options. The main complaint I'm hearing is for a space game, it doesn't have any space combat rules. Is that true? Or is that made up? Does it really have no combat rules in it? I mean, it's interesting that it's been out and we haven't heard anything about it other than the figures look cool. I mean, the figures do look cool. The spaceship figures look cool. The monsters look cool. The art is interesting. It definitely has more of that space horror feel to it than I think anybody expected. So is there a secret space horror game hidden in Spelljammer, the Saturday morning cartoon? I don't know. We'll see. Is Spelljammer, the Saturday morning cartoon 2.0 that we got this week going to be in any way, shape, or form instrumental enough to change, or are they going to drop it like they did Raident Citadel? Hey, remember Raident Citadel that we were complaining about 2 weeks ago? Where did that go? Well, I'll tell you where it went. Nowhere, because even after dropping the price 50%, it's still not selling. There are still copies sitting on the shelves at the few stores that had it. So, as you can see, there's been no follow-through on Raident Citadel, and already all the hubbub and complaints have shifted to people complaining about D&D 1 or 1 D&D or whatever it is they're going to call it. The other announcement is they're not having any more editions. This is the last edition of Dungeons and Dragons. Everything they do now forward will be based upon the 5th edition engine. They're not changing anything. Anything that comes out is going to be backwards compatible with the stuff that's already out, except, of course, this is completely different than 5e. So this is not backwards compatible because it's utterly different. It is, as of this point, a new game. It's a separate game. It's not whatever we know so far. I mean, there's D&D before Tasha. Then there's D&D after Tasha. I'll argue they're 2 separate games. And now there's this. And I'll argue again that that's a separate game because it's not backwards compatible. Also, there's the whole thing about the digital onboarding. They want everything to go digital. They're setting up their own virtual tabletop. It's based upon the Unreal Engine. If you're familiar with some of their more recent video games, like Secrets of Shadowdale or whatever it's called, that's the same thing. If you want examples of what D&D on the Unreal Engine looks like, there's plenty up on YouTube and Steam. So, yeah. It's supposedly going to be a pay-to-use service. You have to have D&D Beyond. It looks like there will be physical product, at least at the beginning, but who knows, a year from now, they're probably going to try and get everybody to use their online shit, and it's constantly going to be just, it's going to be like Magic. There will be standard stuff constantly dribbling down. Then there'll be the optional stuff constantly dribbling down. Then there'll be the limited edition stuff constantly dribbling down. So we compare that to how Magic works. Every 3 months, we get a core set from Magic. But we also get the limited edition stuff like Secret Lair and the crossover stuff, which dribbles throughout. So even though we technically only get Magic once every 3 months, in that gap, we also get at least 2 other Magic-related limited card things that cost as much or more than the core set for that month. So D&D onboarding online, I'm probably going to follow the same philosophy. We'll get a book like Spelljammer, and then they'll say, well, our next book's going to be in 3 months, and that'll be online. But in that between that time, there'll be there'll be the limited edition stuff that you have to pay for, much like the limited edition Magic stuff, and the specialty crossover stuff, just like the specialty crossover Magic the Gathering stuff, like Universe Beyond and Secret Lairs. So it'll be a constant process that you're constantly going to have to pay for if you want all the stuff. And if you don't have all the stuff, you're going to fall behind because everybody else is going to have the stuff you don't, and the game is going to grow and change as more and more options are thrown out there. And since there's nothing being set in stone saying don't, we're going to get the same option glut that we had towards the end of 2nd edition, towards the end of 3rd edition, and of course, GURPS, because all the options are out there. And it's up to the DM to say, no, you can't have that in my game. But Wizards of the Coast is pushing the philosophy that DMs can't say no anymore because that's racist. So it's going to be a disaster, I think. I don't know. I feel bad for small game stores because Wizards of the Coast says the only way you can carry Magic product is if you order a certain amount of D&D stuff. And the only way we'll let you have the D&D stuff is if you order and sell a certain amount of Magic stuff. So, and the amount of Magic stuff we send to a friendly local game store is way more than the amount of D&D stuff. We're never going to sell you enough D&D stuff for you to actually make any money off of it. Well, you'll get 100 things of Magic, but you only get like 4 or 5 things of the D&D latest thing. And then it'll be impossible to reorder it once that's out. Because already we're Wizards of the Coast and we're pushing towards the next thing. So more and more friendly local game stores are going to be placed in the position like, if I don't carry D&D 2024, I can't get Magic. But if I don't sell Magic, I can't get D&D. But I'm not getting enough D&D for it to sell to the point where it's actually worth my time and energy to carry it. Meanwhile, there's all these other companies carrying product that I want to carry. How do I make money off of these other products when people are coming in looking for D&D stuff? I don't have that D&D stuff, so they leave rather than listening to me say, hey, why don't you try something else? Friendly local game stores are going to have to step up their game and offer more and more how to play days and more pushing other companies. The second thing will be interesting to see is how the other companies that are making 5e adjacent product are going to respond to this, and how the other companies who are just like, okay, what can I do to beat Wizards of the Coast to the punch between now and 2024? That'll be interesting to follow. Dragonlance was the first thing that was announced. We're getting that at the end of this year. If you remember earlier this week or last week, we talked about how there was a lot of controversy over how dare Amazon post a spot up in August for a December release from Wizards of the Coast. And how dare Wizards of the Coast do that? Except, of course, they've been doing that for as long as they've had a relationship with Amazon. They rent the space 2 to 3 months ahead of time. They hold the space, so they make sure that space is held for their product. Amazon has to hold / carry X amount of product. And then when the product goes live, Amazon is the first to say, look, here's Dragonlance. Wizards of the Coast told you a year ago that Dragonlance was coming out in December. So anybody who was surprised that Amazon posted a spot for a title and was like, oh, is it going to be Dragonlance? I was like, yes, of course it's going to be Dragonlance. So Dragonlance is coming out. We're going to have a book, regular and special edition. The book is going to take place somewhere in the past during the War of the Lance. It's going to heavily feature Lord Soth The deluxe edition has Lord Soth right on the cover. It's a, complete campaign, level 1 through whatever, set in the world of Dragonlance. That means Dragonlance is canon in D&D, right? Yes, Dragonlance is canon in D&D. When was it not canon in D&D? Fucking Mark. And then we'll also have the skirmish game. Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen will be both physical and digital. We don't have a price yet. And then there will be the new board game / skirmish game. I, for one, want to see a Lord Soth on a Nightmare figure. If the previous skirmish games that they have made for Dungeons & Dragons are any example, the figures will be great, as good or better than any of the figures we currently see now from WizKids and the other companies. The game will be mediocre to crappy. As for the adventure, well, if you're a fan of Dragonlance, you might want this, or you might just want to run out and get all the pre-existing Dragonlance modules and just use those because they're online and they're probably cheaper than this, and they won't force any new Dragonlance politics down your throat. So that's what we're getting first. Then moving on, we go into 2023. And we have keys from the Golden Vault, okay? And we've got all the other stuff taking forward. So that's the beginning of the news. Then I think we're gonna just go through all the other stuff in separate vlogs, and then we're gonna go through this if you really want me to. That'll probably take up most of the day going through this bit by bit. But there's the news on Dragonlance. If you haven't heard what the other stuff coming out in 2023 is. First off, we have Keys from the Golden Vault, which is an adventure collection all sort of based around various thievy things like heists and con games. But don't worry, because your characters are good guys, so none of these con games, heists, crimes are actually bad. Nothing bad will happen to you. Nothing you're doing is actually against the law, because we know that, Dungeons & Dragons now wants to be safe and non-controversial. Then we have Glory of the Giants in the spring of 2023, which is going to completely rewrite and redo Giants, much the same way Fizzbins completely rewrote and redid Dragons. So anything we know about Giants leading up to that is completely pointless. Don't buy Storm King's Thunder now, because it's going to be completely pointless. The stat blocks will all be different. The Giants will be completely different. How NPCs and monsters are presented are completely different. Therefore, it is not backwards compatible. You're going to either have to convert everything in Storm King's Thunder to the new rules, or wait for the inevitable rewrite of Storm King's Thunder after 2024, because they're not backwards compatible. Then we have in the summer the Book of Many Things, which will be more options, magic items, monsters, other chaotic tables to roll on. General goofiness similar to Tasha's and Xanther's, just sort of a book of everything, no real rhyme or reason. And then, of course, anything presented in it will be completely and utterly pointless, because this is completely different than those. So unless those follow this format, there's no reason to buy those. We also have the Fendelver Campaign. So if you're a fan of Minds of Fendelver, one of, if not the best 5e products Wizards of the Coast has made from the original beginner's box that came out. They're now doing a whole campaign, so I guess it'll be similar to like Tomb of Annihilation or the other campaign adventure paths, beginning, middle, end, rewrite of Minds of Fendelver, carrying on the story of Minds of Fendelver in the city of Fendelver. We'll have a touch of cosmic horror, Chris Perkins 2.0 told us. But of course, this is Wizards of the Coast cosmic horror, so it'll be perfectly safe, non-offensive, non-discriminatory cosmic horror. So instead of the tentacles wanting to implant their eggs in you, the tentacles are going to go out and work at Starbucks with you. And then in fall, we have Planescape. Right before the entire switch in 2024, we're going to have Planescape. Is Planescape going to be the cornerstone of 2024? Or are they just going to say, yeah, no, we made this, but it's pointless because 2024 is going to present you a brand new version, and everything that came out before that is utterly pointless, even though it's backwards compatible. but it isn't backwards compatible, and we're going to redo everything we just did for D&D 1. Also, if Planescape ends up being anything like Spelljammer, it will probably be a disaster because it looks like Spelljammer already is. It's also sad because it looks like they already gave up on Raident Citadel. Will Raident Citadel be in Planescape? It doesn't look like it. So if you bought Raident Citadel and looking for the Raident Citadel story to continue in some form, it's not. So, do we have any more information on the digital stuff yet, other than people saying that it's going to be a pay-per-use service? No, we don't really have it. I'm going to look more into that before I follow up on that story. But that's everything we have for now. Join me later today as we slowly go through this. Till then, what do you think? What are your opinions? Do you think this makes D&D 5 far harder or easier? Do you think this is going to give you more options or less options? Are you an honest 5th edition fan? And if you are, please tell me what you think about this. Both positive and negative. I don't want to hear from the Gini Ds of the world. My personal feelings about this, I think it goes, as a Hasbro stockholder who has 10 shares of Hasbro stock, is this going to make my stock rise or fall? Well, as of today, it dropped. So there's a sign. As a fan, if the very first thing I see is Genie D, one of the most horrible people in the current gaming environment, a woman who has gone out of her way to make the environment in gaming far more toxic than it ever should have been. That's the first thing I see at your thing, Wizards of the Coast, you're already turning me off. All right? Any legitimacy you have towards what you think, we support the fans, we love our fans matter, and then you have your spokesperson, one of the 3 spokespeople, be a woman who has gone out of her way repeatedly to insult your fans and drum up completely unnecessarily and stupid, pointless lies about the OSR and older players like myself. Yeah. Okay. Then you go on to have this skit, which basically shows Magic the Gathering creatures taking over the Wizards of the Coast office. So what are you telling me there? You're telling me that Magic the Gathering is more important than D&D. And that Magic the Gathering is taking over Wizards of the Coast, as it should. So again, if I'm a D&D fan, if I'm a 5e fan, if I'm just a casual observer, I'm already like, okay, it's 2 things that are just making me sort of, I don't want to watch this. I don't really appreciate the direction you're going, and I feel kind of like insulted. Then Chris Perkins 2.0 comes out and says, hey, the 3 pillars of Dungeons and Dragons that have been the cornerstone of the hobby since day one: combat, exploration, interaction, and shenanigans. Those are gone. Going forward, our 3 pillars are everything has to be digital, and we need to make money, We don't fucking care about you. All we care about is you signing up for our digital product and giving us money. Combat, gone. Social interaction, gone. Exploration, gone. Shenanigans, gone. The 3 pillars of story building for role-playing, gone. Instead, the 3 pillars have been replaced by D&D Beyond, D&D Digital Virtual Tabletop, and D&D Give Us More Money. Nothing about role-playing. So again, I'm again insulted. Then, no mention of Gygax. No mention of Gygax's family. No mention of the legacy of Gygax. No appearance by Luke Gygax at the thing. What does this tell me? This tells me, again, you're just taking Dungeons & Dragons in a further direction away from what Dungeons & Dragons is and what Gary and Dave designed. And then you change the name. You're flat out saying it's not D&D anymore. It's one D&D. And there's going to be no more additions. We're not going to change anything anymore because we're happy with the way it is. So you can whine and cry and complain all you want. We're not going to change it. Except, of course, we changed it. All right, so next up, we're going to go through this. Yeah, Wizards of the Coast. And looks like my stock, tells the truth. You lost me with Gini D. Of all the people in the industry you could have chosen, I mean, the other two don't count. I don't know who they were. But I do know who Gini D is, and I do know the stuff she has said about the industry, about older players, about 5e players. So you lost me there. Any respect I would have had, gone. Am I going to sell my stock? I'm going to wait till it shoots up next year, and then I'm going to sell it. But yeah. Right now it's gone down. And oh, look, it's the cat. What a better way to end this than with an appearance by the cat. The cat says subscribe to my vlog, so please subscribe to my vlog. And support me, Green Tea. Remember, I will sell out. I am the OG GM. If you appreciate this nonsense, let me know. If you don't appreciate this nonsense, let me know. If you have any insight, let me know. I look forward to seeing how this will progress. I can't imagine it's going to end up well, but you never know. And remember, Wizards of the Coast lies. So take anything they said yesterday with a grain of salt. You're going to hear a lot of other people try and hook their wagons to this and try and spin it to their own personal weirdness, because we know the 5e idiot base is still there. But I really want to hear what actual 5e players say. So I'll be very interested when I play 5e next week and going forward to just actually hear what people say after these announcements. Let me know what you think. Till then, I'm out of here. Talk to you later.